Ha! All right, so there's this film called Divinity that just landed on Shudder. It's artsy, with a huge callback to oddball sci-fi of the late 50s and early 60s. This was a trip, to say the least. Two mysterious brothers abduct a mogul during his quest for immortality, while a seductive woman helps them launch a journey of self-discovery. All right, so this is presented in black and white, and it is very much reminiscent of those early 60s sci-fi films, where landscapes looked just a little less than real, but were typically shot in the actual locations just to utilize rocky areas that present an almost otherworldly vibe. Now, even though I did give the synopsis, while watching this, it was really difficult to determine what the actual point of the story was. When the film opens, we see Scott Bakula talking into a camera, recording himself as he describes his work on this formula, or compound, that he hopes is going to lead to immortality. But he hasn't fully got it to work as intended. And then we're shown Stephen Dorff as Bakula's son, many years in the future. Now, Dorff is a media personality of sorts, but he feels like Calvin Klein mixed with Billy Mays. There are infomercials and strange commercials just consistently on loop on a TV touting this new supplement called Divinity, and it will make you smarter, stronger, more sexually appealing and virile, and extend your life. Now, the imagery we see for this is just a fever dream while on a steady dose of LSD. It is chaotic, sometimes very difficult to discern what's being shown. I mean, images, they're flashing and turning in quick succession. It would have made me dizzy if I'd actually been able to focus on anything jumping around on the screen. I mean, the items and the people move so quickly that everything becomes a blur. And then, when combined with the black and white, where the blacks just absolutely crush the shadows, it becomes even more indiscernible. And then, in the midst of this, we see two figures kind of pop up out of the ground. Felt very much like a scene out of The Time Machine. The two males, they wander through the desert. They finally come upon Dorff's house. Then the hostage holding comes into play. And why did they do this, you might ask? I was asking the exact same thing. I mean, the two guys barely speak, mostly just walking around in a sort of curious daze, looking at all kinds of junk in Dorff's home, sometimes taking things or breaking them. And as a part of the flow of the story, we see a naked woman escaping through the desert. She encounters some other women who materialize out of nowhere and then walk her off into the sunlight. There's a small army or group of similar women where they go, which is just a blank canvas of a location. I love that it gives off a vast look and feel, but it's also so sterile and nondescript that it simultaneously feels like lazy set design. Bella Thorne plays some sort of queen or strange commander to the women. She gives a sort of speech to them, but the dialogue doesn't really resonate. I mean, mainly because I was still struggling to figure out what the heck was going on. Now, stylistically, this is an excellent film. The visuals are specifically crafted to create the old sci-fi ambiance, while also then introducing some modern ideas. The large, sprawling, mid-century modern home that Dorff lives in, it contrasts well with the sparse and the lonely landscape of the surrounding desert. And then, thanks again to the black and white presentation, the shadows lend a lot of mystery to what's occurring. There are also some makeup effects that are gross and awesome, just creating characteristics that I thought were haunting and disturbing. There's also this awesome sequence that utilizes some stop motion to portray a small battle. It felt very much like a Ray Harryhausen design. I mean, it could have come out of Clash of the Titans with how the characters are designed and move. It's a strange addition into the film, but hey, I mean, the movie's already extremely bizarre, so it's kind of fit right in with the weird. But for as much as this looks good, especially for the vibe that it's going for, the story is an incomprehensible mess. Characters are just tossed into the story, which is already ill-defined, convoluting it even more without giving us meaningful dialogue or explanation. I can't even say that this felt like a series of vignettes that were pieced together. The scenes, they mostly flow together, save for the abrupt changes to see Bella Thorne and her gymnastics squad. But several questions went unanswered. I mean, where do the two dudes come from? Are they connected to Thorne's squad? And that's never given any connection, so it is hard to jump to that. And then what the hell is up with the final image? When you see it, you'll know. Now again, I'm loving the strangeness of what we see, but having zero clue what it is or what it represents. And I can't even say that this is acted well. I mean, when characters do emote or speak, they're exaggerated and garish. But because there isn't any character development, there's no context for why they are that way, or if they're supposed to be that way. Now, this is only 88 minutes long, but it feels much longer thanks mostly to meandering characters and an unknown narrative trajectory. And if you're offended by sex and nudity, just steer clear of this one because the film enjoys a fair bit of skin. It works with the idea of virulence thanks to Divinity, but if that bothers you, it's going to bug you big time. So despite this having an intriguing and unique visual presentation, Divinity flounders in its story, haphazardly bouncing through an undefined plot leading to a convoluted mess. This unfortunately is pure style over substance, giving huge nods to the cheesy sci-fis of the past, but failing to deliver on a narrative that's engaging, thought-provoking, entertaining, or even mildly interesting. I love it when directors swing big, attempting something different in the way of film. But for this, it's not only a huge swing, but a huge miss as well. There is a bunch of sex and nudity, some profanity, and some brutal violence. I give Divinity 1.5 out of 5 couches. I mean, there are definitely way better things to spend your time on, even if you're only looking for something to visually entice you. All right, so what are you binging this weekend? Anything awesome? Let me know about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.